Brand new reporting from ESPN's Jeff Carlisle just this morning. The USL Players Association has voted to authorize its bargaining committee to call a strike unless an agreement with the USL can be reached on a new collective bargaining agreement for players in the USL Championship. The union disclosed to ESPN. And let's remind everybody that it is just a week from today's show that USL Championship is due to kick off.
Yeah, this is big news. Obviously, this is the timeline of events this morning. Rob and I got together with producer Jenny to start talking out what we were going to cover on today's episode of Morning Kickaround. We do have big stories in other parts of American soccer, and I think we were prepared to talk about USL on some front, and obviously we're talking Tormenta FC with Alex Ashton coming up. And then somebody said, oh, there was a story that the USLPA had authorized a strike, and I said, oh, I didn't see that. Oh, it's on Reddit, but the link was dead. It said page not found. When you clicked the headline, if you looked in Google, it was there, but it was like a ghost story because it wasn't actually on the ESPN website. It occurred to us to check in with the guy who wrote the story because it did say Jeff Carlisle, completely impeccable reporter on American soccer topics, a guy I know. And so I reached out to Jeff and said, oh, I don't want to talk about this story if it's been pulled for reporting reasons. Like, I didn't want to highlight something Jeff had posted or they had posted with Jeff's byline only to have it pulled down if there was some reason that it had been pulled down that would make Jeff look bad, right? Now, I would trust Jeff's reporting. So, maybe it got published and they found out that actually the reporting wasn't good. Jeff said, nope, no problem with the reporting. Just had reached out to USL for comment and wanted to include that in the story before it went live. So he'd taken it down because it was posted prematurely. He said it's going to go back up. And sure enough, about 20 minutes ago, the story went back up on the ESPN website. And it does say that the USLPA has voted to authorize its bargaining committee to call a strike unless an agreement can be reached on a new CBA with players in the USL Championship. So this is about the USL Championship bargaining agreement with the USL. Remember that these two sides have been talking since August of 2024 about the new deal. That deal that previously was in place expired on December 31st of 2025. They've been meeting. They met last Thursday. There was a federal mediation and conciliation service, a mediator there on hand, which usually means they have gone to a place of, we need extra help. This isn't working. We can't figure this out. Let's bring in the federal government. This has happened a couple times, I think, with MLS. It's happened in other sports. You've probably heard about it. This is usually a move that says we are in an intractable place. According to Jeff's reporting, the last proposal came on February 18th from the USL, and the USLPA said it really wasn't any different from the previous one, and so they rejected it. And there are details here, Rob, but I think that's the important thing, that USLPA has authorized its bargaining committee to call a strike. Does that mean there will be a strike?
It's more likely than it ever has been before. And like you said earlier, it may be a little bit of saber rattling, but I mean, they don't have too many more, arrows in their holster, if that's what you holster arrows in. But anyway, it's the last step towards, we're serious, guys. We're super serious, guys. No, well, we're serious, guys. And you said how many negotiation meetings there are. Can only be so many with you going back and forth, not changing anything. I mean, it says in the article here, and we've had from our contacts with the Players Association that, they go back, redraw things after unsuccessful negotiation, and then come back to the table with the league and nothing's changed. And so how many times can you do that over and over again?
Yeah, look, if the league is not moving forward in a way that the USLPA thinks is actual progress, then this is a move. It's a arrow in your quiver, right? It's an arrow in your quiver. Yes. All right. So you pull that arrow out. Now, again, this does not mean there will be a strike. It simply means an administrative step has been taken. Now, the story that Jeff filed says the USLPA is saying 90% of the player pool participated in the vote. Ooh. And it says approximately 90% of the players rejected the last proposal and authorized the committee to take all necessary steps, including calling for a strike if required. I mean, there are some words here. If required. Like, at what point does the bargaining committee for the USLPA say, enough is enough, we're calling for a strike? And you and I have talked about this. Do we think the USLPA is sitting on a big strike fund to carry its players forward into the future if they're not getting paid by their clubs because they're striking? We don't think so, right? So is this a bluff on the USLPA's part, or do they are willing to go all the way to the extreme here to make their point? There are some more details about the things that are still in contention. We've talked about health insurance. 80% of clubs offer health insurance, but there is no sort of universal mandate that clubs offer health insurance. So 20% are not, clearly, if 80% are. Sources tell ESPN that the league and union have agreed that some form of insurance should be offered for every team, but the USLPA wants a standardized health insurance policy across the USL Championship instead of one at the choosing of individual clubs, which is what the league prefers. Right? Again, the league does not. Everything is very much in this category of USL does not want to take on more responsibility than it has to, that it absolutely has to. Right? The clubs are responsible for their budgets. The clubs are responsible for expenses. The clubs are responsible for everything that goes into running a professional soccer enterprise. And the USL just sits there, organizes the schedule, lines up the championship, does the branding, reaps the benefits of whatever revenue comes from things like broadcast rights and the like. And we know that's not gigantic money, but again, the clubs are not getting a piece of that. So the economics here and the way that these negotiations are playing out is fascinating to me because of how USL is structured.
Yeah, things could get pretty ugly here if there literally isn't any money for these minimal demands. Or I don't want to be reductive, but they're not exactly asking for millions and millions of dollars here, the players. And so if these requests that they're saying, like healthcare insurance, better facilities, better working conditions, and the buyouts are a huge thing. The being able to buy out three players
look, okay.
with limited thing. But I wanted to say here, what an interesting trickle down of the United States' healthcare system, that one of the stumbling blocks of getting a work CBA is the healthcare benefits. Like, not too many other places in the entire world that would get a stumbling block for playing soccer would be the health insurance.
Well, I mean, obviously, like we have a privatized health insurance industry, whereas if you played soccer in Denmark or whatever, you're getting universal health care as part of just living in Denmark. Like, you don't have to do it. The team doesn't have to do it. The league doesn't have to do it. Dave is saying that I've oversimplified what USL does. I probably have. There's more that goes into it. It's just not to say that USL doesn't have a role or isn't doing things that are important to the success of the clubs economically, right? In the industry of soccer. And look, again, it comes down to the club's faith in the USL as an entity to do the right things to help them grow. And some of them are not, they may be running their own small businesses, but they are not positioned to be also league organizers, right? They are not positioned to also do the things that USL does on that front. And again, what we see USL do in terms of development of soccer in America, whether that's through trying to get clubs started in various places, making sure there's some sort of connection between various levels of the game, tying women's soccer in through the Super League, running amateur competitions, those kind of things. Like there's lots of things USL does. I'm not trying to say USL has no value or they're just sucking at the teat of the clubs and taking all their money. That's not what I'm saying. But there definitely is an element of what is the USL's real motivations here when they go to the table and sit down with the players. How do they view the players? Do they view them, this particular group of players, do they view them as critical to the success and failure of USL writ large, or do they see them as replaceable, Rob?
That'd be wild if they went the replaceable route, but with just 7 days until kickoff, that seems unlikely, or at least there would be a delay before any sort of replacements would be able to come in, you'd think. In the article, it highlights that it's been 547 days of negotiation here. So yeah, getting that federal mediator in there definitely seems necessary. And with just a week to go, it seems like this is going to accelerate here over the weekend. You think by the time we come back on Monday, this story could be completely different. It's possible. But it's wild. It's wild that they didn't call reinforcements in until just now, after having, hundreds of days of negotiations on this. USL Championship set to kick off on a week from today on March 6th.